shall descend upon you, and more than you among the bells.
For whom the bell tolls.
Cheers.
Well, hello, anyone who's ever showed up drunk to any family establishment and pretended like they weren't drunk. Welcome to another wonderful episode of Drunk and Demonic. I'm your host, Jamie.
And I'm also your host, Peter.
Nice.
Hell yeah, dude.
Well,
I'm your host.
Hey, host, finally.
What's
I thought
up?
you were always a guest.
Hey, host. Hey, host.
Hip hop a host. With that said, what are we getting ourselves into here?
I mean, we can run through a little bit of sponsors here.
Okay.
We have the classic, the most wonderful sponsor. Our beer sponsor for the evening is going to be
Always.
Pacifico Cerveza Clara. I think Clara means clear. I'm not totally sure. Do you know?
No, I
Okay.
don't really know Spanish. I'm from Wyoming, so they didn't teach us Spanish.
Yeah, but I also had Spanish classes. I'm from Oak Creek.
Yeah, that's probably pretty similar.
Yeah,
would
I
say.
imagine our Spanish classes were probably very similar.
That's such an interesting story.
Yep.
I'm so
Continue.
glad you shared. That's it. We're talking about our sponsor.
All right, yeah.
Pacifico.
So
is there
Clara,
anything?
Clara is
That's
going
it?
to mean clear. All right.
Is there anything else in front of us? What's
we
us?
do have some alcohol in front of us.
Okay.
We have
Congrats.
George Dickel's Tennessee 8-year bourbon.
Okay.
We also have Chambord and a little bit of simple syrup.
Okay.
Now we're gonna make a little drinky poo
Okay.
called Bitches Brew.
Bitches brew.
That's gonna
For
tie
bitches.
into this whole episode
Okay.
as we cover maybe the best witch story I've ever heard. Fuck The Conjuring. Fuck the Blair Witch. This is the best witch story that I've ever heard.
Nice.
I'm gonna just get after it and
Okay.
make you a cocktail.
Why
Bud.
don't you make me a cocktail?
Yep.
Thank
Your
you.
turn for Hell on Earth.
We're going into
Hit us
Hell
up.
on Earth right now.
Okay.
What do you have there?
I was going to give a quick little update. I think it was maybe not the last episode, but the episode before that, we talked about the Idaho murders.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Correct.
Okay. And I was talking about how dumb this guy, Brian Koberger, was because he was this criminology student who had apparently fumbled this whole thing where he was going to try to be hidden. All of a sudden, he left this knife sheath at the house that had his DNA on it, and the police were able to track him down through this. So last week, it's finally revealed. So they haven't gotten a whole lot into the trial yet, right? Nothing has started as far as trial goes. They're still fighting on what settlements are going to be offered and stuff like that. It comes to light that in the house, there are multiple unknown bloodstains, and there's a glove in the front yard containing another DNA sample
Do they know
that does not match Brian Koberger.
Do they know who it is?
They do not. This is what the craziest thing is. So I don't know exactly why they don't know, because obviously with the knife sheath, they ran it through not just CODIS, which is categorizing ex-felons and stuff like that, but they brought it through these, I don't know what genealogy websites where people submit their DNA, and then apparently the FBI and local law enforcement are now able to access these websites. But they have this glove and they have a blood stain on the staircase, aka the banister, which is going to be the railing that goes down the staircase, as well as the wall right outside one of the bedrooms that doesn't match the DNA of anyone inside the house that died at the time, or even also, like it should be mentioned, the people that live in the house that did not die, it does not match Brian Koberger, who is the main suspect, the only suspect that they have in this entire case. It doesn't match him, right? And they don't have any idea who this person is.
Yeah, but when I was like listening to about they're like how like in a college dorm room, it's not far fetched to find a multiple people's DNA.
Absolutely. You
So-
are 100%
Yeah.
correct, right? But
What does this have to do with the trial, though?
it is massively important to the trial because you have suspect DNA
Mm-hmm.
all over the house that doesn't fit the one person you think it is.
Okay.
And Brian Koberger is the only person who has been like even considered by these police officers. Okay. So I am not here saying that it's not Brian Koberger,
Okay.
but it's very interesting that we have multiple DNA samples. Also, the fact that there's a weird glove outside that contains DNA samples, and there's a couple different literal blood samples. Now, I should mention that police reported there was so much blood in one of the bedrooms that it seeped through the wall that they like literally found it on the backside of the drywall,
Mm-hmm.
as well as soaking through the plywood that was the barrier to the next room underneath. Okay. There's a ton of blood in a knife murder. And no blood was found in Brian Koberger's car. There was no blood found on any of his clothes. There are tons of like I mentioned last time, there's a shit ton of evidence that points to 100% Brian Koberger did this, and it's really easy to understand why. But there's these small details that keep adding up that make a jury question things. And all the jury really needs is questionable doubt
Mm-hmm.
to not convict someone of murder. So it's going to be a really, really big deal going into this case because this was not admitted until last week that they even had other DNA samples that they had in that the police had collected, which is crazy.
Where did it come? Where did this like get brought up? When they were like, "Oh yeah, randomly, we also found this." So
In discovery, when they have to present the evidence that they're going to
Okay.
bring, the police have to admit all of what they've collected, and the defense can pick and choose what they want to be admitted. Kind of. That's sort of how it works. But the police bring in everything and they say, here's our whole like investigation. And then from that, the defense gets to pick and choose
Mhm.
what they see as valuable, right? This was something that kind of slipped through the cracks. And I don't know if it was withheld or if it was just now discovered, but there is other DNA that was found at the scene that does not match Brian Koberg, and it doesn't match anyone who lives at the house.
Yeah, you already said that.
So huge deal.
Yes,
Like
for sure.
really interesting to see what happens
Mhm.
with that. Just considering the fact that all of the crazy stuff that's still going with the case,
Mm-hmm. Are they on trial right now?
they are weeks from a trial.
Okay, so
It's happening as we like.
okay.
This is very, very relevant.
Yeah.
But no trial yet. All of this is just now being admitted.
Did you ever notice that we didn't even try your cocktail you made?
Oh, I've been drinking.
Oh,
You want to try it?
sure.
I forgot the simple syrup.
Oh, do you want to put the simple syrup in it?
You want to try it first?
Sure.
I think it's pretty good
I'm
without it.
sure. Just bourbon and Chambord. Tastes like the black apple, dude. Some of the apple syrup. It is really good. I like that little tiny Chambord bottle.
It's not bad. It's the holy hand grenade, dude. You know Monty Python?
I do, but I don't know the reference you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, okay. You're right.
You want to go to horror news?
Sure. Unless you have anything else you want to talk about in murder. I know you do.
I do, but I've
save
been
it for
told
the
to
next.
withhold it.
We'll
dude.
save it for the next one.
Yep.
That's what we do. We pick one and done.
Can you guess what it is? If you can guess it, write it in the comments and we'll tell you if you're right.
I don't think anyone's commenting.
I don't think anyone will either,
Peter,
but hey.
Other than people saying, don't talk about politics.
It's about
assholes.
Massachusetts. I'll give you a hit.
Oh, nice, dude.
Yep. Okay.
Horror news.
Horror news, dude. What did you watch this week?
Other than the obvious, the only other thing I watched was Yellow Jackets. Have you watched this at all?
So I've seen the first half of the first season of Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so we're on the third season.
What?
It's season 3.
Huh.
I think it's episode 3 we're
Okay.
at. And that technically is the only thing I watched other than recycled true crime again. Like
And we watched the fucking monkey,
Yeah.
dude.
we did.
Let's fucking go.
Let's talk about the monkey, Peter. The majority of the stuff we got to go watch the monkey at the movie theater that was previously closed.
We already did
bitched
like an
about
RIP for the movie theater.
We did,
and then
they
apparently
opened
it's
it.
not dead.
Yes, so we got to go watch the monkey together. Almost didn't get to make it because they closed at 8:00 when the movie was at 7:45. But
I will take the blame for that.
They let us in.
Jamie was ready to go when I got there at the bar next door.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, nope, we're not leaving yet. And he's like, dude, we got to go. And I was like, we'll be fine. And they straight up were like, not going to let us in. And Jamie just put on the sweetest face and said, hey, we really want to watch it. Can we please? And they're like, no, the commercials are already over. And he's like, when did they end? Like 2 minutes ago? And they're like, yeah, around there. And he's like, yeah, I know this movie. I've seen it. And he got right up in this girl's face. He said, you gonna let me see this movie?
I did not do any of this. He's making everything.
Or you got to leave.
No. So I just said, hey, is there any way we can go?
Please.
I'm pretty sure it's just the previews are here. And she said she was very hesitant, but then she let us in. So big thank you. So what are your thoughts about the monkey?
All right. So I watched the monkey and then I went and saw a couple of reviews of the monkey.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally disagreed with every review that I saw that I thought the monkey was fucking sick. And everyone that I heard from review wise said that it wasn't. And I was like, hey, I think that you just don't quite understand where I come from and the horror background that I have. Where when I got into horror, it was the early, I would say like the late 2000s, where almost every horror movie was like kind of making fun of something. And it was almost all the horror movies were actually a comedy. And this was exactly what I wanted to see. It was a horror movie, or actually, no, it was a comedy movie disguised as a horror movie. And I laughed my ass off and I thought that it was fucking phenomenal. What do you think, Jamie?
I thought the same. I thought I loved that it was definitely geared towards being funny. Yeah. I thought all the killings were fucking brutal and I loved it.
The kills were like so over the top and like an homage to like the people that love over the top horror to like laugh at it.
Yeah, but it wasn't like annoyingly over the top.
No, definitely not. It was funny in like a reserved way.
Yeah.
Yep. Like it wasn't hours of fucking like sitting on the edge of your seat, like Final Destination, waiting for someone to die. Every now and then you get like 30 seconds to be like, I can see that this person's about to go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then every now and then that person goes. But like there was something, I thought the movie was done super well as far as it made me laugh. And I thought that the deaths were hilarious. And I thought that the movie itself, I heard from like a lot of different reviews that like it didn't know what it was, but like it really did. I think that the movie went like back to like the late 2000s and the early 2010s where like the genre itself is making fun of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it knows that it's a ridiculous thing. Horror is not like something to really be afraid of. because it's so ridiculous. It's not taking itself seriously, and it's all about like how ridiculous we can make this whole thing. And I thought that this movie did it really well, where it was like it was kind of scary at some points when it wanted to be, but like even the scary parts were funny because they just led to hilarity.
Yes. In so many words. I don't think that the entire horror genre needs to be exactly that, like you said, but I do appreciate when it's like that. Yep. And I liked that this movie wasn't trying to be something that it's not. It was about a fucking monkey that killed people or that caused people to die. They didn't try to make it anything more. There was a couple good plot twists. I liked the narration. It reminded me very much of like a horror Christmas story as he was telling the story
100%
about himself.
Wow, that was really, I like that.
Right. And
yeah, like the narration did have this like kind of detached, reflecting kind of note to it.
Yes.
Like it was like the Christmas story, but
I thought
Halloween or whatever.
The very end of the movie was my favorite part. I'm not going to spoil it, but wait for the very end. And I guess the only people that really were laughing the whole time were you and I. Everyone else was like, oh, and we're just like, like this is fucking hilarious. It might make us fucked up, or just the fact that we appreciate horror more than everyone else.
I think that's like the thing that I enjoy the most about the movie, because like you go to a bit more horror movies in theater than I do.
I tried to go to most of them. Yes.
Yeah. And I think that the genre itself, not like to fault anything about the genre, but it takes itself very seriously sometimes. And when I think back to like what made me fall in love with the horror genre, it was me and my best friends absolutely annihilated hungover, watching the worst horror movies I've ever seen be funny. And I like got that same feeling from this movie where it was like, I know that like I'm not hungover to watch this movie, but like this movie is meant to be ridiculous and it's doing such a good job of it. And it makes me want to laugh at it because that's the point of the movie. It's not meant to be scary. It's meant to be grotesque a little bit and to push some boundaries. But at the end of the day, it's meant to make me laugh at how ridiculous human life is.
Yes. See, I had a different start to horror. I feel like I watched horror from a very young age, and it really like freaked me out for the longest time.
Yeah.
And then once I started watching it more and more and getting into the more ridiculous stuff, it kind of gave me a fine piece, and that's where I like truly started to love it. Like I remember
you have to get scared the first time to be able to appreciate it.
I remember watching it in the second grade, and it fucked me up for a very long time. Yes, very much. That's what happens when you're in a trailer park in Wyoming and the cable's on. But then I remember
be a country song, right?
Yeah, I think so. It could be. And then I remember in high school watching Sleepaway Camp, and that movie is probably one of the funniest horror movies that's ever existed.
Yep.
Wieners. Lady wieners. I'm going to end with that. Is there anything else you watched, sir? It doesn't matter because we watched The Monkey.
I think that's the one we're going to leave it with. I thought the Monkey was really good, despite what any reviews would say.
I heard. Well, fuck the reviews. That was great.
Did you watch reviews? Because I checked out some reviews.
I watched
like, man, like I love that movie. What have other people said? And they're like, this movie doesn't know what it wants to be. Is it funny? Is it scary? Is it grotesque? I'm like, dude, fuck that. Like the movie was so good because it didn't take itself too seriously, and that's why it was so good.
Yes.
I loved it.
Sidebar. I was going to bring up the fact that there was another documentary about Gabby Paterno. Did you watch that?
Oh, fuck. Yeah, I did. The Gabby Petito one is like, it's
Petito?
So fucking
is that
sad, dude.
Well, it's
not Joe Paterno. It's Gabby Petito.
Well, it's the fourth since 2001 to come out. And I've watched all four of them. And I'm like, really? It's going to be new. Yeah, there's four of them.
Man, like it's just like, why I don't know why you're watching so many. It's like pretty cut and dry, right? Yeah, they have a whole lot of information. I'm
It's
pretty sure,
exactly the same shit.
yeah, the
as
dude
Eric.
definitely. I remember that case
Yeah,
because it was
remember
COVID and it was fucking like
Yeah.
it took everyone. Like it was the only thing that like I don't know why it was the only
it
thing
was
that everyone
Tiger
was paying attention
King,
to.
Tiger King,
It was.
and Gabby.
That's exactly what it was. It was fucking Tiger King. And then this shit that kept fucking popping up on my news radar was like fucking
She was lost. Yeah.
Gabby Petito is lost. And then all of a sudden, like the boyfriend's found in Florida. And then all of a sudden, like the boyfriend was eaten by alligators.
No, that was not.
Okay, I didn't know if that was
He
true or
shot
not.
himself in the face.
Oh. Did he
So
get
you have
eaten
not
by
wa-
alligators
No,
ever?
so you have not watched any of these.
No, I haven't.
I was gonna go back into the fact that
I haven't
you give me a hard time about rewatching the same shit all the time. So that's why I was bringing it up.
Oh.
Because I watch like anytime they have a serial killer documentary out on a different thing, I watch that or anything about the same story.
I don't mean to give you shit for that. I just like it doesn't interest me that much because 100% we didn't even bring this up, but like if something was newsworthy, it wouldn't come out in like a little like Netflix documentary. It would be like the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post and the New York Times would all have stories on it. Just like when they have actually found out who the killer of Jack the Ripper was.
Oh, I know. I saw that too.
Right? Okay. So let's like briefly just touch upon this. This is shit that's actually happening. So they have actually found who the killer of Jack the Ripper is.
Yes, they did.
I don't have any of the names. Don't fucking come at me with this shit. This is coming up completely natural.
The only one's going to come at you is you, dude.
But that's what I'm saying is like if we had information about JonBenet Ramsey or any of these cases that we're like super worried about, like, oh, like maybe this documentary is going to tell us who did it. No, they're not going to fucking tell you who did it because we would all fucking know way before we would see the documentary that someone figured out who the fuck this was.
Yeah, true.
You're not going to find it out through a Netflix documentary.
It's still interesting to watch.
It is very like I started the Gabby Petito Netflix documentary and I'll watch it only because I do want to know what the story is because I can't help myself but want to dig into true crime stuff. But I don't expect to find any like answers that someone else doesn't have.
No,
I'm pretty sure this dude definitely did it, and I don't think anyone else has a different story.
No, he admitted to killing it.
Okay,
or killing her.
Yeah,
he wrote a like before he killed himself, he wrote a thing explaining
he's
that
dead.
What?
I didn't know he's dead.
Yeah.
The guy?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
he's dead as shit.
Oh damn.
Yeah, he wrote a suicide note saying that he did kill her, but not saying that through strangulation, like it was said in the autopsy. They said that he killed her because she hurt herself. She fell in water and was dying, and then she pleaded for him to kill her. So he did, and he couldn't live on without her. So he went to Florida and killed himself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like tough.
Spoiler.
It is a spoiler,
Mm-hmm.
but like the story's been out for like 2 years now. If you don't know
Damn
it.
near. It's been out since 2001.
If you don't know it, you probably should.
Well, if you don't, depending on which streaming service you have, they've got a story on it.
At least one documentary.
There's
about
at least
the whole
one
case.
documentary on each streaming platform you have. You can even have Tubi. I'm pretty sure there's one on Tubi, and that shit's free.
You can listen to it. You don't even have to watch it. Just listen to it.
Yeah. You just look up in the sky. There's a story.
Stories.
Look at the clouds. Look at the clouds. And
You look up at the stars, man.
All right.
Think the lights win.
Enough rambling. What are we doing now? What are these drinks about?
So,
what do you got?
Tonight's story, we will be covering the Bell Witch. Anything about that? You know anything?
I do.
Here or there? All right.
I knew here or there. Would you like me to tell you which one? Here or there?
There?
There. Tennessee.
Tennessee. Hell yeah, man. So I did spend a decent amount of time at the liquor store trying to find a bourbon.
We couldn't tell from
that
your
was
slurring.
based out of Tennessee.
Just like the Chris Stapleton
We
song.
have George Dickel.
Yeah.
There's like 3 other ones.
Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah, I don't know why Chris Stapleton did that, man.
Is Jack Daniels, I guess, is actually Kentucky
Tennessee,
bourbon.
Jack Daniels is Tennessee.
Yeah.
But it's bad. I can't drink Jack.
Jack's not that
Can you
bad.
drink Jack?
No,
I literally cannot drink Jack Daniels. I drink whiskey primarily.
I don't drink whiskey.
Almost
at
the
all.
only thing I drink.
The only time I drink whiskey is with you.
I cannot drink Jack Daniels. So I'm like, hey, what else should I drink? And I had to fucking scour the entire liquor store to find another liquor, bourbon specifically, that was made out of Tennessee.
And there
Because-
it is, Dickel.
Here we are. George Dickel.
I thought it was going to be Chambord.
Nope. Chambord is made in France.
Oh, fancy. That's why
Yeah.
it's named like that.
Well, it's, yeah. I think
Okay.
it was maybe made by the Vatican. I'm not entirely sure. It
Ugh.
resembles the Holy Hand Grenade from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. And that's definitely children's blood. That's why it's from the Vatican.
I don't know why you brought that up, but
Because the Pope's disciples like to touch children.
they
And
enjoy
they
it.
sold their blood in Chambord, and you all drink it. So y'all all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Y'all should be ashamed.
Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
All right. You know what? I don't think you're wrong.
Me neither.
Anyways. So, on to our main event.
Yeah.
Along with the tormenting of a young girl and her father, this, dare I say, poltergeist would interact and wreak havoc on all to interact with it. This case also stands apart from many other paranormal stories, as there was a death directly attributed to the activity of this paranormal entity. In this episode, we will be covering the Bell Witch.
The Bell Witch.
The Bell Witch.
You bitch.
All right. So, the story of the Bell Witch may seem exaggerated or somewhat unreasonable or even impossible, but it should be mentioned that some of the story comes from second or even third hand accounts, such as journals and entries that were written either 30 or 50 years after this whole event occurred and were compiled between 70 and 100 years after the actual incidents occurred. So much of the information that those books provided is relayed through stories of people who weren't even alive at that time. Now, we're going to get into the real story. Take into account, while the hauntings have been documented before, the cases of the Bell Witch should serve as a prototype for the American haunting. Specifically, much of the activity of the Bell Witch would come to define paranormal activity through the following centuries. John Bell was a man who grew up in the late 1780s and was around 32
Okay.
when he married his lovely wife, Lucy, who was 12 at the time.
Gross.
Yeah, it's not as gross. I mean,
Depends on who you ask.
yeah,
To me, that's very gross.
it's pretty fucking gross.
That may not be gross to you, but
It's pretty
to me.
gross.
Oh.
Yeah, at the time it was like not maybe that gross,
No take backsies.
but it's gross. And we're gonna like continue to see weird, gross shit like that throughout the rest of the story.
Okay.
That's not like the worst part of the story, like people being weird and creepy towards young girls, mostly because all of this story takes place during the time of like really deep and rich slavery. So that's a little bit bigger crime, I think, as far as we'd consider. So all the people that we'd like maybe prop up or like say that they're good people in this story still have the stain of that. So
Smart,
I don't know.
Smart. Pushing all the gross and weirdness on slavery. That way people don't understand that you didn't think that 12-year-olds dating older men was gross. I
yeah,
get
for
it.
sure.
I get
Yeah,
it.
we're not
Smart,
going to
smart.
really deal with a whole lot of the fact of how actually we are. I mention it like a whole lot in this out. Like we're going to fucking go through how fucking weird it is that the old dudes want to date the not just young women, but the extremely young women in this story. I think it ties into the entire story of this
Ooh.
case.
Okay.
We'll get to that at the very end, though. But anyways, so John Bell has this massive farm up in North Carolina, and it fucking sucks. He has all of his crops die, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, his cattle also die.
Mm-hmm.
They're all fucking sick. His pigs get the same shit that the fucking cows get. Everyone fucking dies, right? So John Bell says, "Hey, Lucy," his, I'm going to guess, 15-year-old wife at this time.
How many
Hey.
kids she have?
Huh?
3 by then?
3. Yeah,
Yeah.
1 per year.
Figured.
Yep. They're going to head down to Tennessee
Mm-hmm.
out of North Carolina. So in 1804, the family moved to the Red River Valley in Tennessee and purchased a 300-acre farm. Apparently, you can just fucking buy 300 acres when your fucking previous farm fucking sucks. I don't know.
That's
if
how they
you've
did it
looked
back
at-
then.
Have you looked at Zillow lately?
Yes. You can't
Yeah.
even buy an acre.
No,
I can't even afford an acre.
There's some farms that are out there. You know what 50 acres is costing these days?
2.5 million. If not
Around
more.
there. Yep. Like you're pretty
Depends.
much spot on. It's about
Steamboat.
100,000 a fucking 10-acre plot.
Steamboat Springs, that's going to cost you 20 million.
Yep. So what is nice though is that unlike their previous home, the farm in Tennessee flourished and John Bell became a well-respected and wealthy landowner through the years. And by 1815, he had secured his place as one of the most influential men in the entire Red River community.
It's a Cinderella story.
It kind of is.
Yeah. Bring.
We are going to now introduce the foil to this entire story. Her name is Kate Batts.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Batts was a fiery and outspoken neighbor of the Bells,
Okay.
often described as a strong-willed and independent woman. Keep in mind,
She black.
this is in the early... No, she's not black.
Oh.
She's
The way you said it
very
made me
white.
made it sound like this man.
I'll continue to describe her. all
She's a
right?
strong, independent woman.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What, you changed your voice.
You're
You
not
confused
wrong.
Me.
But anyways, she's red-haired. She had a strong, like,
That was
she's
my second guess.
physically,
Right?
yeah, she's Irish as
She's
shit.
fiery
She's
redhead.
fucking fiery and Irish. Personally, like physically strong. She was unafraid to voice her opinions. Now, she was now the manager. Like she took over her whole family's farm because her husband had literally been hit, apparently, by a fallen tree and broke both of his legs, just like Tanner Hall.
Who's Tanner Hall?
You don't know who Tanner Hall is? I have broken ankles.
No.
Okay. Anyways, you weren't a kid in 2007. You were old by that point.
Well, tell me who Tanner Hall is.
So over in Utah, there's like over in the Wasatch Canyon,
Mm-hmm.
there's like this big ass jump called Chad's Gap. And Tanner Hall didn't clear the whole thing. He actually kind of shorted it. And he used to ski for the X Games. He was like a big X Games skier.
Okay.
And he shorted the gap and broke both of his ankles.
Jesus.
And while he was laying on the ground at the bottom of the jump, screamed lots and lots of times that he has broken ankles.
See, I don't ski. I'm a snowboarder. That's why I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was a deep
I'm
cut.
not
I'm
an
sorry
old
for
person. Don't old shame me just because I know you're.
that. I'm not
fucking
trying to old
X-skate.
shame you. I'm mostly trying to like snowboard shame you, I guess, at this point.
No, you were old shaming me. Go on.
He's like the Danny Cass era.
That's way before 2007. Danny Cass is like when I was growing up.
Look it up, dude. Yeah.
I feel like
He retired around that same time.
Okay.
So, anyways, her assertiveness and her eccentric nature led to rumors of witchcraft. In an era where strong, independent women were often reviewed with suspicion, she became a target for gossip. She also, and I hate to lump myself in with her, but like, she was pretty much 30 minutes late to everything that she did, including church. And that was seen as not okay.
No, you can't be late for church.
One of the earliest accusations of witchcraft against
God's
her
watching.
came from some random girl who claimed that she struggled to turn buttermilk into butter. She just must not have had a good technique.
Wrong.
She worked for
weapons.
about two hours and couldn't figure out how to turn the buttermilk into butter. And she claimed that it was because Kate was nearby. So frustrated, the girl heated up a fire poker,
Mm-hmm.
stuck it into the buttermilk, and then people noticed later that day that Kate had a burn in the middle of her hand, claiming that it came from a fire poker at her own house. But the people that knew thought that maybe it came from her being a witch. There were two major disputes that kind of connected Kate to the later Bell Witch.
Okay.
After Kate's husband suffered a crippling injury, she fell into financial hardship and she needed assistance. John Bell, her neighbor and also a prominent landowner, loaned her money in exchange for a piece of her land and a human slave. When Kate later discovered that the loan carried an exceptionally high interest rate, she was furious. In the early 1800s, usury, charging excessive interest on loans, was considered morally reprehensible, particularly by the church. News of John Bell's predatory lending spread through the community, damaging his previously sterling reputation. Eventually, this financial scandal led to John Bell's excommunication from the local church. That wouldn't come until about 4 years after this, though.
That's like suicide in the town.
Kinda, yeah. So, the second major conflict is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But one Sunday, Reverend Sugg Fort was delivering a passionate sermon that deeply moved the congregation. During the sermon, a man named Joe Edwards fell to his knees in repentance, and the congregation gathered around him in a prayer circle. He rolled onto his back, and at that moment, Kate Batts arrived, late as shit, as usual, completely unaware of what was happening. Now, she pushed her way through the prayer circle, pulled up her skirt, and sat directly on Joe Edwards' chest and began howling like a dog. So as Joe is yelling out his sins, Kate sits down and starts barking and howling like a dog. The congregation was initially stunned, but many had to stifle their laughter at the absurdity of the scene. However, John Bell was not amused. He openly criticized Kate for her actions and mocking a sacred religious moment, and called her an embarrassment to the church for showing up late to church every single time. The two went back and forth, and eventually John accused Kate of being a witch.
Was she still on top of him?
Literally all of this was while she was just fucking sitting pussy out on top of this fucking dude.
She just dropped her underwear too? She's full
I don't know, dude. It's 1815 at this time. Scary. I don't know how much underwear they're wearing.
Back then they were big underwears.
No, these are not Mormons.
Hell, everyone wore big underwears.
Maybe they just had big underwear. I don't fucking know, but still.
Pussy out, in your opinion?
I'd say she's probably pussy out, dude. In my opinion.
Okay, yeah.
I'd ask Kate's witch, but she gone now.
I'm sure you could sub it her.
Anyways, John starts to fucking bitch at her, and he's like, why the fuck are you always late to church? You're a fucking embarrassment to the church. You're a witch. But instead of denying the accusations, Kate allegedly responded with a curse of her own. She said, okay. I also have to preface this.
Mm-hmm.
Kate was this strange woman that also, she chose words that were not fitting, but were big, trying to, get across her point to sound intelligent. So as I read this, keep in mind that half of the words she says don't really make a whole lot of sense in the context. She just wanted to sound really smart because maybe she read she saw one word. She read the dictionary and did one word a day where she'd be like, I'm going to use that word today.
It's kind of like Ricky.
It's exactly like Ricky.
Yeah.
All right. You ready for this? Okay. So rather than deny the accusation of her being a witch, Kate turned and responded to John, pointing a finger at him and saying, you may have your broad acres as well as mine, purchased at a pittance. You may have a big house in your salubricated health right now, but wait and see what sad challenges shall descend upon you, and more than you among the Bells. From that moment on, tensions between Kate Batts and John Bell reached their breaking point, and many believed that she was responsible for the supernatural horrors that followed.
What does that even mean?
Pretty much she said like, fuck you, I hope this shit fucks you up.
Yes.
I'm gonna point at you and cast some spells.
Throw
I don't know what salubricated health means,
No,
but she was saying like, hey, like you took my land at a very like small premium. Like, fuck you for like trying to call me out. You know that I'm struggling. Fuck your health. And not just you,
I'm gonna sit on
but
you.
also more than you,
Mm-hmm.
meaning her John Bell's kids.
Oh.
Yep. That's what he like shall descend upon you and more than you among the bells.
For whom the bell tolls.
Okay. John Bell first encountered, so we're in the year of 1817 now.
Mm-hmm.
John Bell first encountered an unnatural creature while inspecting his cornfield.
Interesting.
This beast appeared out of the cornfield, running into the trail, and had the body of a dog, but the head of a rabbit with glowing green eyes that fixed on him. They would not move. He moved one way and moved the other, and the dog followed him the whole time. Eventually, he raised his rifle and fired, but as soon as he shot, the creature vanished, leaving no trace behind. Soon after, strange figures began appearing on the Bell property. Drury Bell, John's son, reported seeing an unnaturally large bird, like way bigger than a species native to the area, perched on a fence and then taking flight.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of like described it as like the size of a pig with wings.
Man,
That's-
bear, pig.
What's up?
Man, bear, pig.
It could have been man, bear, pig. It probably was, dude.
Or
At this time, we're dealing with some like weird economy
dog,
shit.
rabbit guy.
Yeah. I bet
Okay.
we'd have to ask Al Gore.
He wasn't alive then.
Well, he probably knows though.
He probably does.
So around the same time, Betsy Bell and Drury again also claimed to see a mysterious old woman wandering through this orchard on the property.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they would walk towards her, she'd disappear through the bushes and never be seen again. Now, while walking again through the orchards with her brothers, Betsy witnessed a dark, shadowy cloud moving towards them. As it settled over a large oak tree, the shape of a woman in a green dress appeared near the tree. As they approached, they realized that the woman was hanging from a noose. The craziest thing is that the woman's sorrowful face was streaked with tears, making the apparition appear all the more disturbing. The children fled, and then when they turned around to look, the apparition was gone. There was nothing in the tree. This strange activity escalated inside the home as well, beginning with loud knocks inside the house. This is like pretty like typical
Mm-hmm.
poltergeist activity. The knocks turned into aggressive pounding on the walls and the floors, shaking the foundations of the house. Unseen forces also whispered incomprehensibly inside the darkness of the house in the middle of the night, filling the home with a sense of dread. The family heard the sounds resembling rats gnawing at the end of their bedposts at the night,
Mm-hmm.
but every time they'd look to go check to go take a look at them, there would be nothing there, and the actual sound would move to the doorway, and they'd hear it on like the door hinges, and then when they go to the door hinges, it would move to the next room, kind of thing. Fucking super weird.
I'm in the walls. Come find me.
Come find me.
We're gonna find this.
Fucking fires, fucking break the fucking wall. Like
find
this is
me.
like literally how this whole thing turns
Yeah.
out. All right. So as first, John Bell dismissed these occurrences as pranks or like natural phenomena.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that like maybe the house was settling, or more explainably, he blamed the fucking slaves that lived on his property of like trying to fuck with him, as well as Kate Batts. So, however, the events became increasingly malevolent and unexplainable, he began to fear that his family was under attack by an unseen force. The Bell family was unknowingly about to enter the darkest periods of their lives as the entity's presence grew stronger and more violent. The nighttime disturbances within the Bell household grew increasingly violent. Loud knocking and scratching sounds echoed through the walls, keeping the family awake all night. What began as faint whispers turned into chilling, guttural voices speaking in unknown tongues. Then, the sounds of chains dragging across the wooden floors and heavy footsteps in empty rooms terrified the Bells. The entity's presence manifested in physical ways, though. Blankets were ripped off of the children's beds.
Gross.
And pillows were flung across the room. Gross?
I hate when blankets get ripped off.
Of the kids' beds or anyone?
Just anyone's.
Okay.
I didn't,
Noted.
I didn't
realize that was
I
such
didn't know
a,
that was going to stop
that
your
was a tick
tracks.
for
I'm
you, man.
sorry.
Man, I didn't realize that was such
I
a
didn't
big
know you were
stick for
what?
you.
Sorry.
He's so upset about the fact that people's beds are getting ripped apart. Man, housekeeping, stay away.
I'd like to say I was tidy, but I'm not. I just kept thinking about when you talked about him like married to a 15-year-old, and then you said kids and their things getting ripped off, and I just automatically went to gross.
We'll get there.
Of course.
Because I honestly, like, at the end of the day, I have my own opinion about how this whole thing happened. I think it's a unique one, but we'll see what you have to say about it. So anyways, the family reported the sensation of invisible hands tugging at their clothing and touching their faces in the dark. Objects started moving on their own and sometimes floating or being thrown violently across the house. And then there were strange, like, dog-like growls going on all night that turned into laughter and then would just completely evaporate at whatever time they chose to. In the late 1817s, Betsy Bell became the primary target of the entity's aggression. She suffered repeated physical attacks. Now, her hair was pulled, she was slapped across the face, picked up, and mysterious bruises appeared on her arms and legs. At night, she would be yanked from her bed by an unseen force, often waking up on the floor in tears. They also pulled her sheets off, just so you know. I know that's like the most upsetting thing.
Why did you even bring it up?
The entity also whispered cruel messages to Betsy, threatening to harm her and those she loved. Fucking, you like your fucking cat? I'll hate that. I'll feed it too much, dude. He's gonna get so fucking fat. Your fucking cat's gonna get so fucking fat, dude.
You like that cat? I want to fucking kill it.
No, it's not that kind of thing.
Oh.
It's like with Betsy, it's like kind of weird where it's like it doesn't really get that aggressive. It's kind of like fucking, I'm gonna fucking double feed your cat. And you forget that I fed your cat, and I'm gonna feed it again.
You like that fucking cat? I want to cut half of its whiskers off on one side. It's gonna have half whiskers. It's not gonna know which door to walk.
I'm gonna make it drink so much water. It's gonna get like so full.
It's gonna pee so much.
It's gonna piss on everything.
You like your fucking cat, dude? I'm gonna switch its brain so its stomach gets upset.
Yeah, like that's fucked up shit though. Don't fuck around with that. Yeah, but like that's kind of shit that happened though. So John Bell also began experiencing disturbing symptoms. His mouth would suddenly become paralyzed, preventing him from speaking. He felt an invisible force like constricting his throat, and his tongue would he said it turned to stone. So it would like get really hard and rocky, is what he described it as, to where he couldn't speak. And this started as like 10 to 15 minutes at a time. So it wasn't a big deal.
Like specifically during like dinner time when he was supposed to like talk to him and his children and his wife.
What we should mention is that during this time, there's zero entertainment. So the only entertainment you have is just talking to your family. And John Bell fucking hated talking to his fucking family.
Oh, the fucking ghost got me.
Oh no, he's got me. I get better go to bed. Oh, I can't say much. It's gonna get it. Yeah. And then he just get the fuck up and go to bed.
The man's an innovator.
Yep. Love him for that.
I'm gonna try it.
So, but while we mentioned that like all of this happened, the entity like seemed to like mock him, and it would like when he made choking noises, the entity would make choking noises. It just like laughed, and then it would laugh at his distress as he left the table and would go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, John's health visibly declined, and he became withdrawn and anxious. As the haunting worsened, the Bell family confided in close neighbors who soon experienced strange occurrences themselves. Some visitors to the home claimed to hear disembodied voices mocking them by name. Most of what they, like the Bell Witch did, was gossip.
Hell yeah.
And say like, yo, fucking Jim drinks too much. You know that, right? He's also fucking like the land, like fucking one of the slaves.
Oh, it's like,
That kind of shit. Like
oh,
he, like the witch was just like causing trouble just because it could.
it's wreaking havoc.
Yep.
Just like Jen in accounting.
Fucking Jan.
No-
Again,
no-
objects moved before their eyes, and many reported feeling sudden icy chills despite extremely warm or hot temperatures in the house. Eventually, Reverend James Johnson, a trusted friend of the Bells, volunteered to spend the night in their home to investigate the claims. During the night, he was violently shaken awake by an unseen force. His blankets were also fucking
ripped off. God
ripped
damn
off
it.
of him, dude.
This is
Just
a fucking-
thrown across the room.
This is my own nightmare.
He attempted to pray aloud, but the entity laughed at him, and it started mimicking his voice, kind of, in a weird, distorted tone.
Kind of.
It couldn't quite speak at this point, right? The next morning, he left the Bell home, convinced that a malevolent spirit had taken residence there, and he warned the family that they were dealing with something beyond human understanding. Now, Reverend Sugg, the guy that was there for when the original curse happened,
Mhm.
dismissed all of the claims by the Bells and insisted that the disturbances were either pranks or tricks orchestrated by Kate Batts or her slaves. Reverend Thomas Gunn, his homie, visited the Bell home in the late 1820s
Mhm.
or early 1820s. Sorry, it wasn't even 1820s. It's 1819. And he questioned the entity about its origins. It responded seriously this time, whereas normally it would just like talk shit to people.
Mhm.
It was like, you deserve a real answer, Reverend, because you are the true righteous man of God. It identified itself as Kate Batts's witch,
Mhm.
and stating that it was there to torment John Bell until his death.
Like a ghost switch?
I don't really know what this thing is.
I thought witches were alive. It's like a
No,
demon.
I mean, like, that's kind of what we'll get to by the end of the episode is like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
this thing?
And yeah, I feel
Because
like
Kate
witches
Batts could be
Yeah.
a witch,
witches live
but
forever.
these are entities and spirits
Do they
that
not?
we're not sure what they
so
are.
it's not a witch. Witches live forever.
Yeah,
Everyone
but
knows that.
everyone refers to it as the witch.
Shit ain't a witch.
So I'm sorry. I'm going to call it the witch for the rest of the episode. My fucking bad. I didn't realize that it offended you.
No, I'm just saying, like, witches are known for being alive.
You're right.
For all that, like, they're like, oh, last time
I don't disagree, dude.
my
You're
coven
right.
was in 1742. I'm still alive, and they're like vampires. They just never die.
Yeah, in 1816, we took a little
So,
trip
There's no ghosts.
with me and General Jackson down the mighty Mississippi. I think that's Woody Guthrie. I'm not sure.
I just don't, that's the only part I know.
Mighty Mississippi. Yeah. Anyways,
Still a
that
witch.
will actually come into play later in this story.
You keep saying that.
So
How much later? All
by
these
this
things?
point, yeah, there's a whole lot of shit that goes on.
okay.
The story of the witch or the entity or whatever we're going to call it spread far outside of Tennessee. Speaking of which, the only reason we're drinking George Dickel tonight is because it's the only Tennessee whiskey I could fucking find besides Jack Daniels, which I can't drink.
You said that.
So I didn't know if I had mentioned that already.
You did.
Well, love to mention
There
it
it
again.
is. Here it is.
Anyways,
Mm.
so there's a man that comes to the Bell home from England, and he's
Mhm.
intrigued by the tales of the witch. During his stay, he confided in John Bell that he misses family back home, as he'd been traveling in the U.S. for about 3 or 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
That night, the entity tormented him with the voices of his parents expressing their worry and longing for their son. At the same time, the man fled the Bell home the next morning, only to later discover that his parents back in England, when he got home, claimed that they had heard his voice in their home the same exact night, expressing the same sentiments about how he missed them.
Weird.
It's a very strange entity, right?
Yes. It's not a
Okay.
witch.
We're now going to talk. We mentioned like the witch maybe fucking with the slaves a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
was super, super mean, super rude to the slaves. I've seen a couple reports of like,
racist.
oh
witch.
yeah, maybe
Ghost
like
witch.
the witch like didn't like the Bells because they owned slaves. Oh, that's definitely not the case. The witch definitely just like was even more rude to the slaves than it was to the rest of the Bell family. So there's a slave named Dean, and he was owned by the Bells, and he reported numerous encounters with the entity. At one point, he was carrying a witch ball, which was a literal ball, which is like a charm made of hair and tar, spit and herbs. It was meant to like ward off evil spirits. One night, he encountered the black dog that John had previously encountered,
Mm-hmm.
and the creature mocked him for carrying that charm. He said, "Get the fuck out of here. Pretty much get rid of that shit. It doesn't fucking matter." And Dean held it out. And at that point, the entire fucking charm caught fire. He said, "Fucking find a new hobby." I don't know if that's what he said, but I assumed it was something like that.
Yeah.
At this point, the demon kind of came close and like started to attack him. But Dean pulled out an axe from his waist, split the creature in two through his head. Right? So the creature's diving at him. He fucking pulls out his axe, fucking splits its head in two. The creature takes off with the axe in its head. 3 days later, he runs into the same creature. Creature's got two fucking heads, dude.
Whoa.
Yeah. Growing out. The axe is still there. It's just grown out past it on both sides.
Weird.
Fucking weird, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to picture it right now.
Yeah. So, as all of this is going on, the family, specifically John and Betsy Bell, are becoming more and more worn down. As the entity's power grows, it developed, this is so crazy, the ability to communicate more clearly.
About time.
You'd say that.
Instead
but,
of in sarcasm.
while at first, like early in the story, the spirit would answer through knocking. Eventually, it began to whisper, and later it spoke in full sentences. And then finally, it just literally just ran with sarcasm. And that's how it responded to people. But when people asked who it was, to some, it claimed to be the spirit of a disturbed soul seeking revenge, aka Kate Batts. To others, it said it was the goal of a murdered traveler or a tormented Native American spirit. And like we said, like the biggest one was, it was the exponentiation of Kate Batts. There's this crazy. So as
You
the
keep
creature
cracking yourself
gets,
up.
no, I'm laughing so hard because I'm getting to this point that is, from here on out, it's gonna get hilarious. So as the creature gained power,
Mm-hmm.
it developed, I guess I would call it alter egos. So it had 4 different alter egos besides old Kate, which it called itself old Kate.
I'm old gray.
Okay. There's Black Dog,
Okay.
who was the boss and told everyone what to do.
Okay.
There was Hypocrisy, who was more concerned about gossip and making fun of the townsfolk.
Mm-hmm.
We had Mathematics, who was literally consumed with like religion and logic.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Jerusalem, who was apparently a small boy who couldn't do anything but tell the truth. And everyone, all the other versions of the witch, yelled at him for being truthful. And they just beat the fuck out of him. I only bring this up because at this point, we're about early 1820s.
Mm-hmm.
And these different entities would put on like a Hollywood show or like a Vegas show where they'd all get hammered as shit, the ghosts, and yell at each other about things.
How do you know this? Where's the
So
there's logic about these ghosts getting hammered?
all of this comes from documentation,
Hearsay.
documentation, out of the 1870s and 1890s, and again in the 1930s. But all of this is written. I'm not making this up.
I know you're not making it up. I'm just.
What would happen is that Black Dog and mathematics would get engrossed in a conversation about philosophy. And then all of a sudden, Psypography, who is the fucking drama nerd, is like, think of it like as TMZ inserting itself into like an investigation.
Okay.
Would just be like, yeah, but what about the neighbor that said this? And then all of a sudden the whole thing, like, keep in mind, all of this is happening out in the open. Everyone that is visiting the Bell farmhouse at this time can hear this. And I would like to mention that John Bell or none of the family is making any money from this. They have opened their home completely. They're allowing people to camp in their yard. They even have like small little beds that they've built in their living room for people to stay the night so that they can witness the fucking witches or the witch.
Interesting. It sounds like there's 4.
He's not charging anything. And he's also feeding people that stay there because they have enough land to provide the food, whatever. It's just so fucking crazy. They're like, these entities put on like a Hollywood or like a Vegas style show, ending in like music and song where they all harmonize together and like rip on John Bell by the end of it. That's what they do.
Side note, did you know that you can go to the town in Tennessee and then they perform reenactment plays of this?
How much are tickets?
I'm sure it's free.
We got to go.
You got to.
December 29th, man.
I think it's
That's the day that John Bell died.
I don't think it's in December. I think it's like September, October.
It should be in September, October. Those are the witching seasons.
Those are the witching seasons. But yes, you can go. This is like the main draw of this town in Tennessee is that they do like play reenactments of
I'd
this.
really like to go. Like they made songs up and they fucking
like to go.
I'd really like to go.
Who wouldn't?
All right, I'm gonna like interject real quick and tell a story that isn't as interesting before I get to another, like maybe the best part of a ghost story that I've ever heard in my entire life.
Okay.
But anyways, at this point, the witch's obsession with Betsy intensified, and it personally started interfering with her personal life.
Mm-hmm.
Betsy was in the midst of courting a young man named Joshua Gardner. Now, she was 12 at the time that this happened. He was 18. That's not so bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. But
so Betsy's not married.
Betsy is not married. She's 12 years old. She's also the key of all of this.
Okay.
She's the one that's getting beaten the fuck out of, dragged around by her hair, seeing all these crazy visions.
Okay, I got confused. I thought it was Kathy. Kathy's the neighbor.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you're thinking of Kathy Bates.
Yeah.
There is no Kathy Bates here. It's Kate Batts.
Kate Batts is the neighbor.
But I do get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Um,
I get confused easily.
But every time that Betsy spent time with Joshua, the entity reacted violently, pulling her hair, slapping her, and whispering like aggressive threats that she was going to kill her and him into her ear. One night at a social gathering, while Joshua tried to propose to her, the entity's voice boomed over the room, demanding that Betsy break off the engagement with Joshua, and told her that she would haunt her until the end of her days and also would kill Joshua if the two were actually married.
Jesus.
For some reason, though, the entity seemed very, very content with pushing her towards her own teacher, 33-year-old, I think it's James Reynolds. I don't know why, but like apparently Lucy, Betsy's mom, was like really concerned with her dating this guy, Richard Powell, who was her school teacher.
Yeah.
At the time that she was 12, Joshua Powell was 31. And apparently that's a great age gap.
That's not a great one.
I don't know. Like,
You're using the wrong words for this.
I'm
man.
just saying, like, apparently at the time,
I want
there's nothing more than like, man, a 12-year-old wife sounds great. Just give her some blocks or something. I don't know. But
31.
anyways, the witch itself like inserted herself into the fact that Betsy was not allowed to date Joshua Gardner, the 18-year-old, but really pushed her towards this 31-year-old dude who was literally 21 years, 19 years older. Sorry, 19 years older than she was. I don't love that.
It's getting, yeah. Me either.
This is the best fucking story I've ever heard of in entire fucking witch history. So there's this guy. Have you heard this in the research? Frank Miles. Do you know the name?
Nope.
Okay. Apparently he's the fucking strongest dude in town, right? He shows up to the Bell household and he's saying, fucking, I got 2 fucking guns. One's called Ann, the other called Life. And he's like, let me see that fucking witch. He came to the Bell home believing that he could physically confront the entity because, and of no fault of his own, he believed that if the entity could strike Betsy Bell, he could strike back. Okay.
Makes sense to me.
So he walks into the living room and he says, fucking spirit, come out and fight me if you're a real fucking man. And the spirit says, I ain't no man. I ain't no woman. I'm the soul that's going to torment you to the death. And it fucking throws him across the entire room. Right?
Ain't that strong?
But he gets up immediately and charges back to the spot where he was and slams into the wall, putting a hole through it. Outside. Okay.
Not a brick house then.
No, it's a wood house.
That's
He
still pretty
punches
impressive.
through a fucking wall.
That's still pretty sick.
It's fucking sick. So then he turns around and he sees that this chair is kind of like, oh, what movie is that where it's like spinning on its one leg in like a circle?
The one.
I don't know which one it is.
Jeremy Lin. Jet Li.
Jeremy Lin? Like Lin
No,
Sanity?
No, I said the wrong name.
Okay.
I was
figured.
racist. I'm sorry. Jet Li, not Jeremy Lin.
Yeah. Either way, I think you're
Different
wrong
Asian.
both
I'm
times.
sorry. I am definitely wrong.
But anyways, he sees the chair at the table spinning on one leg. So he fucking runs directly at it and goes to body slam it. And there's nothing there. So he just slams through an entire chair and the whole thing blows up in a fucking hail of splinters. Cut to 10 minutes later. This guy fucking Frank Miles has completely destroyed the living room of the Bell household, uprooting tables, ripping things off the fucking wall. And the witch makes fun of him and says, you'll never fucking catch me. So he leaves. And then he comes back the next day with a bag of flour.
Of course.
And he throws it into the air and it lands on Betsy Bell. And the witch fucking smacks her in the face so hard that it knocks her to the ground. And then Frank runs over to Betsy, pulls her up. And eventually he's told to go the fuck home by Lucy Bell, who was like, hey, literally, you've like been running around her house, just throwing handfuls of flour into the air. Apparently he was supposed to like land on the witch, but that's not how this shit works. The whole house is covered in flour and they tell him to get the fuck out. And as he's walking out of the doorway, the witch kicks him in the ass, laughing, and forces him to leave the home, saying that he's dumber than a bag of turnips.
That is pretty dumb.
I just like, I get a kick out of like the fact that he's just sprinting through the household, just like laying out chairs and tables as he goes. And there's nothing there, but you know, some flour lands on the table. So he just like body slams it.
This is all very hard to like take in. There was a lot that just went
That's my favorite part of the whole story. I should
really
caveat
thinks
that.
about kept thinking about like a bull.
Yes, 100%. Like, there's definitely some bullfighting aspect to this whole thing.
Hello, sir.
And this continues to go on.
Yeah.
Like, the witches, like, whatever we want to actually call it, it's labeled as the witch, but it fucks with people and it's like an entity that has a lot of fun
That's a
messing with people.
demon or poltergeist.
So, later, a detective from Baltimore, Mr. Williams, traveled to the Bell home to prove that this haunting was all a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
On his first night, he experienced minor disturbances such as scratching and sounds and hard knocks, but he dismissed these as simple tricks. However, on the second night, he awoke to an unseen force pinning him down, punching and scratching his face. At this, because like the first night he was like, yes, this is all done by the Bells. They're fucking losers. This is how this goes.
Mm-hmm.
The entity screamed to him, Mr. Detective, which of the Bells do you think is on top of you right now? You fucking loser. He didn't say that last part. The next morning, Mr. Williams fled the property, shaken and unwilling to continue his investigation. Now, at the end of 1820, Andrew Jackson visited.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
Previous, or like soon to be president.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before John Bell's decline, future President Andrew Jackson visited the Bell home, having heard the legend from his soldiers. Now, both Drury and John Bell Jr. had served under Andrew Jackson at the Battle of New Orleans, and they had heard tale from these boys of their house and how fucking weird it was.
Ghost.
There may be ghosts here with us right now, so we'll just continue to tell the story as if the ghosts are very nice people.
Bell Witch don't like that.
All right. As Andrew
like
Jackson
this?
and his
What
men...
was it like this?
It's kind of like that. As they moved toward the Bell property, their carriage suddenly stopped, stuck in not mud, but just could not move. When they picked, like literally had the men pick up the carriage because they could do that,
Mm-hmm.
and they spun the wheels and it was fine. As soon as they put it back down on the ground, they couldn't fucking budge it. All of a sudden, a laughter broke out, and the witch said, "You may proceed now, General." After which the horses were freed and they moved the carriage along. Jackson and his men spent the night at the Bell home, but they brought this one guy who claimed to be a witch hunter with them. And I don't know how tied into everyone he was, but he goes unnamed. He's listed as, I think he's listed as like degenerate, where he claims to be a witch hunter. And he has this cat tail of a dead cat, not like a cat tail from like a river, but like he holds it up to his nose and he says that he can smell when the witch is near. And then all of a sudden, this dude just gets fucking slapped to the ground, and the witch says, "I'm sorry, I mistook you for a cat's asshole.
Yeah.
When you were holding the tail right by your nose, I thought your mouth was the asshole." At this point, it like literally scooped this guy up by his fucking nose and started dragging him around the Bell household by his nose. He pulled out his pistol that was apparently full of silver bullets and tried firing at the entity, but nothing worked because obviously the gun didn't work because the witch was around. I don't exactly know. Anyways, fucking the witch threw him out of the house by his nose, completely broken, almost ripped off his face. And the whole group that Andrew Jackson was with was laughing their asses off. So the dude just kept running and didn't even bother coming back. Also, all of this is like highly conjecture. We don't know if any of this even happened.
This whole story we don't really know.
Totally fair.
To be fair.
By the early 1920s, John Bell's health had significantly deteriorated. The mysterious afflictions affecting his mouth and throat became nearly constant, upwards of 20 hours a day, rendering him unable to speak or even eat.
It's called throat cancer.
Yep, for sure. His movements became erratic and he suffered violent spasms that left him bedridden for long periods. The entity intensified its torment, laughing at the suffering and openly declaring its intention to see him dead. As his condition worsened, the witch's nightly disturbances escalated. Loud bangs, eerie laughter, and grotesque noises filled the house. We are now to the end of 1820, but Lucy, John's wife, becomes sick and falls gravely ill. However, unlike John, Lucy experiences this strange kindness from the entity, where guests to the ranch used to bring her like flowers, fruit, and stuff like that. The ghost starts bringing her grapes and hazelnuts, and it makes her well almost immediately. Lucy regains her strength, and despite expectations, she adds to the mystery of the spirit's intentions, claiming that the spirit is not there to harm them, but to help them. In a desperate effort, the Bells suffered a local necromancer, Solomon Mice,
Okay.
who claimed he could remove the spirit from their home. Now, Mice showed up with what we would call like occult tools, but like it's pretty much early modern like witch hunting or even like ghost hunting type things.
Mm-hmm.
He has this wooden windmill that as soon as anything moves by it, it starts to like turn so that you know when spirits are going by, whether or not a person is going. But like none of this really worked. He also had these weird
That's
like
crazy.
potions that would say like, oh, he put them around the house and like when this changes color, the witch is nearby. And then like he had them all over the house. None of it really worked at all. Now, Mice's attempts to he actually also went and tried to exorcise the spirit from the house. When Mice tried to exorcise the spirit, after 4 days of failure, he left humiliated because the spirit straight up just made fun of him, saying that all of the fucking Bible verses that he quoted were wrong. He didn't quote them correctly. And all of his mixtures for his weird like tonics that he had were done incorrectly. He pretty much said he was a bad Christian and he should fucking find a new job.
Bummer, dude.
Yeah. Now, Mice was super offended by this, but like didn't leave until the 4th day, when finally all through the night he was just pounded by like beration from the fucking creature. And when he mounted his horse, the horse wouldn't move until the witch told him, "You're such an imp, you can't even make your horse go." And then there was a smacking sound. The horse reared up and then sprinted with Mice barely hanging on as it ran across the field. So, in late December 1820, John Bell slipped into a coma of which he would never recover. He was out feeding his hogs when this happened,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden, he was thrown onto his back and his shoes flew off. That's a bummer. But what he did was fucking get the fuck back up and put his shoes back on. But immediately, he was fucking thrown back onto his back again, and his shoes fucking flew off. So the next time he got back up, and he double tied his shoes, thrown the fuck back down again, the shoes flew off. He's like, I'm gonna fucking triple tie him this time. Didn't fucking matter. So his shoes go fucking flying off again. He's like covered in fucking shit from the pigs. And he claimed that like he knows that the witch is coming for him. At this point, he walks back to the Bell household, crawls into his bed, and is stuck in a coma for the rest of his life. In late December 1820, Bell slipped into a coma from which he would not recover, and the family, searching for medicine to treat him, discovered a small black vial in the cupboard, which they did not recognize. Now, a doctor showed up and identified the vial and said, "Let me try that." They gave a very, very small drop to their cat.
Mm-hmm.
The cat immediately died. At this point, the witch screamed, "I have also given that to John Bell. He shall not be long for this earth." Which the doctor goes over to John Bell's bed and detects the same foul odor on John Bell's body. On December 29th, 1820, John Bell does pass away. Now, the witch immediately laughs as soon as John Bell passes, but holds off for 4 entire days until the final like after the funeral of John Bell's death, when it just decides that, hey, I'm going to have a whole sing-song thing. So all of these different creatures, we have Kate Bat's witch, we have Black Dog, we have Psypocryphy, we have Jerusalem, and we have Mathematics, are all singing like doo-wop. Yeah, they're doing their snap song. Ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah. Why do girls fall in love? Why do girls fall
We
in
just
love?
killed
That kind of
John
shit.
Bell. He is dead now.
He is dead
because he messed with us.
because he messed with us. Literally that kind of shit. With like they're harmonizing like weird like bar drunken songs about John Bell's death.
Oh, that's a different. We do a doo-wop instead of there was a tale of old John Bell. He was alive and now he's not.
Go home. So may John Bell die, and then he'll die, and then we'll cry. That kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yep.
There goes John Bell.
Pretty much. So John Bell dies.
Yep.
And at this point, the witch erupts and claims that all of her hard work is finished. She's not done yet, though. She claims that she will be back in 7 years. And she does kind of show back up in 7 years. She rescues a boy from a cave right near the Bell property.
That's nice.
That people do claim it's where the entire entity has come from, because it is literally underneath an Indian burial ground or Native American burial ground. There's not really like a whole lot that we know about the Bell Witch. We don't know if any of this happened, if it was all made up for a good story. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, James? You got anything cool?
I saw
before I get into questions to discuss.
I saw in one of the documentaries there's a teacher from that home the town in Tennessee.
Was it the one that married the girl?
No.
Because they did actually get married eventually.
This is whoever was on this either A&E or History Channel documentary I watched. He said that he used to play the game of telephone with the Bell Witch. And he would ask the kids in the channel or in his class to explain what happened in the Bell Witch haunting. And it would go from child to child to child to child to child, and everyone was completely different. And he goes, that's exactly how you explain the story.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the Bell Witch, specifically in Tennessee and in this area, let's call it like the rural South. You have these elements that are going to always be, let's call them like, it's a moral tale, or it's like an old wives' tale to like, get kids to bed early or to fucking keep kids from misbehaving kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
To where like maybe it's not a real story, but there's a lot of shit that fucking goes along with, like, there's a lot of baggage with this story. I think that's maybe a little over the top for, it's not a fucking Bloody Mary story. It's a fucking, there's historical evidence to document this shit.
Pretty sure there was a movie made about it.
About this?
Mm-hmm.
Was it called The Blair Witch Project?
No.
Oh,
it's called The Bell Witch Haunting.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, when I was like first Googling it, it's like, watch The Bell Witch Haunting on Amazon. I was like, no, thank you.
No, thank you. I'd rather not. Interesting.
All right. That's all I got. Give me
All right.
questions.
All right. You ready?
Yep.
Okay.
That's why I asked.
Was the Bell Witch just an early example of mass hysteria? Or is this proof that something beyond our understanding exists? Keep in mind that people tend to believe what they want to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a case of fear feeding into itself, or something that really happened on that farm that people may or may not want to admit exists?
I could see both points. I feel like I want to believe
that
it was ghosts.
Let's go, Vox.
But it makes a lot of sense to be mass hysteria.
I get that.
Both points.
I think it's interesting, like the fact that this whole story, for the most part, was initially published almost 70 years after it occurred.
Yep.
And the reason was because no one that was a direct involvement with the case should be alive because it's too traumatic.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. I get it, but at the same time, like, I don't. It wasn't awful to everyone. The Bells had like 10 fucking kids, and we only talked about like 4 of them.
Yeah.
There's plenty of kids that could have been like, yeah, this shit didn't fucking affect me at all, but it fucked up my sister a lot.
But they didn't.
Exactly. So I think that there's some part of this that is meant to be, whether
A
it's
story.
metaphorical or some kind of story that we're not really totally sure how to comprehend or understand or give meaning to. But I think that, I don't know, do you think it's mass hysteria or do you think this is real? What do you think?
I could say it goes either way.
I think it's too many
I
people,
think-
man.
I think realistically, it's mass hysteria.
Who gains? Cui bono, dude.
Chris Gaines.
Chris Gaines?
Mm.
Shit, dude.
Yeah.
You think he's involved?
No, I just said that because that was the
Where the
first thing that
bodies,
came to
dude?
mind. Where are the bodies?
Oh, shit, dude. Garth Brooks, you have to fucking admit it right now. You tell us right now, I'm looking at you directly in the microphone. Are you involved with the Bell Witch haunting? Garth Brooks, I'm asking you directly. Okay. We can go back to our regular questions. Do you think it's an elaborate hoax?
It falls closer to mass hysteria
Right?
than to like actual hauntings.
Hmm.
In my personal. Sorry, I'm sleepy.
Got 2 more questions.
Give me them.
All right. Why the hell did the witch care so much about Betsy Bell's love life? Now, we dug into this a little bit in the episode, but I'm sure you listened to enough research that like it was really weirdly involved in like who she was seeing.
She's a gossip queen, dude.
Betsy?
No, the witch.
Oh, the witch was
Not
fucking like
mathematics.
literally like the definition of like, I don't know, a producer.
A gossiper.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my answer.
I have a theory here.
What's your theory?
I think that potentially the witch was not Kate Bell's witch or Kate Batts.
Mm-hmm.
Kate Batts witch. I think the witch was Lucy Bell's witch.
Thus
John Bell's wife.
Thus meaning,
right?
does everyone
I
just
think-
have witches? And we're not
No,
calling them
but like we're looking at like, okay, so this girl is like trying to fucking get wifed up at the early 1820s or whatever. And that's like, she's the same age when all this shit starts going on as when her mom was when all this shit started going on.
Mhm.
Right. And for whatever reason, the witch seems so concerned about what the fuck is going on with Betsy Bell's life. And for some reason, she's like, no, like the 18-year-old dude is not cool, but like the 33-year-old dude is really cool. I think that Lucy Bell had the hots for Richard Powell, the
Mhm.
school teacher, and was like, hey, I can't fuck him, but maybe you can.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I think like maybe Lucy Bell created this entire thing to allow her daughter to bang the dude that she wanted to bang. I'm just saying, dude. I could be wrong, man.
I think you are.
I could be,
All right.
but prove me.
I also
dude.
don't, yeah, I don't.
Prove me
have a-
wrong.
No,
Tell me
you're
how.
right. I don't. I don't.
I think
have
it. I think it makes the most sense. I've been thinking about this for days. I think that.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Okay. Lucy Bell gets sick, and all of a sudden, no one else is getting hurt, but she just gets like fucking hazelnuts that don't even grow in the northern hemisphere and grapes. Like she's fucking fine, and then all of a sudden, like everything's taken care of, and she's just like beating the fuck out of the daughter that doesn't want to date the school teacher that obviously Lucy Bell has a crush on.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of coincidences here that I don't think I can ignore.
Fair.
I think that the witch is Lucy Bell's witch. Therefore, it is a fitting title. She's called the Bell Witch. All right. We're going to go to the next
Yes.
question. Why do we keep seeing hauntings that center around specifically 12-year-old girls? Hit it, dude. That's a softball pitch right there.
What do you mean? I literally, I guess it's just like older people making up ghost stories to collude these ladies into believing what they say. That's what I thought.
You don't think it has anything to do with the fact that women transitioning to their older, like actual, like female bodices that like creates different hormones and that spirits will interact with them in that realm?
I didn't think about that. No,
You don't think that?
it makes sense now with the possibility. I feel
Yeah,
like
dude.
you
I think
set me up.
I think that's it, dude. I didn't mean to like set you up. I
No,
thought you were going to be prepared for this.
No, why would we prepare for the last question?
No, I have another one too.
Like, hey, never mind.
Hey, why are we talking about 12-year-olds getting horny and marrying 30-year-old guys? No, maybe that's not a great question.
I'm like, are you sure it wasn't this that I
that I've spent hours and hours and
that I
hours
have planned on
researching?
talking? No,
Yep. That's your bad, dude. You should have prepared. Okay. Final question.
Yes.
Why the fuck are we still talking about this story?
I don't know.
No, like legitimately though, like why does this story matter more than all the other ones?
Because it sparks an interest. That's why there's 1,000 people that bring it up all
Correct.
the time.
I agree with you.
Mhm.
I also think that this story spends, like, if you look at this story and then you look at the rest of American hauntings,
Mhm.
you see a direct lineage from that, where a lot of what we come to understand as American hauntings
Mhm.
gets its birth from how this whole thing went down. And so I think it's important that we pay attention to this because it really is the first documented case of it.
Mhm.
And even through like the early 1900s into the late 1900s and 2000s, specifically through horror, whether it's, you know, the Amityville horror
Mhm.
or, you know, things like that that involve some kind of like malevolent spirit that
Mhm.
takes over someone and that torments a family. Like we get to understand who that being is. And this is like the prototype for it. I think that we get to see what everyone else gets to describe later after this as an American haunting through this. It sets the stage and it tells us this is the prototype and this is what these things fit in as.
It says it's the stepping stone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Cool, man. Well,
All right.
how you want to end this?
Just like that.
Hey, cheers, bud.
Cheers. I'm out.
No beer?
No, dude. No, I got some beer.
I know you
Yeah,
got
cheers.
I saw
All
it.
right. Well, with that being said,
Go
without-
fucking fight a demon, dude.
without,
Do it.
Without
Fucking
further-
challenge it to a fight. Ask it to wrestle. If it fucking says no, just fucking throw some flour around and see if you can find it and try to wrestle to the fucking devil's den. You were saying something.
No, I've got nothing. Please end this off there, Peter.
You guys like and follow. We appreciate everything that you guys have given to us so far. All the support. Keep the comments coming. If you guys have any things that we should cover, any comments that you think we're wrong about, we'll address those. But I don't know. We're just having fun with this. So please engage with us. We'd love to hear from you. And always, drink down those demons.